Before we start, if I sound sick, it's because I am. Back when I was little, I remember sitting in class, bored out of my mind, while my teacher explained some math topic to my classmates for something like the 4th time. I thought, why can't they just get it? What's wrong with them? This was not an uncommon occurrence. See, I was one of those so-called gifted kids. Above average IQ, offered to skip grades and study at special schools, the whole 9 yards. Eventually, I did move on to another school, one that accommodated kids like me. I then went to college and there it was again. Classmates asking the same stupid questions over and over. Why can't they just get it? What's wrong with them? I've since come to realize that there was nothing wrong. Shocker, I know. Those kids, those classmates, they just weren't built for classroom learning the same way I was. Just like how many of them were probably built for street smarts at a higher level than I. But I had a dislike for them because they got in the way of my educational experience. Let me put it this way. Things were supposed to happen one way. A, then B, then C. But when they were involved, it would go A, then B, back to A, then B, repeat once more, C. The way things should be just wasn't going to work. The curriculum couldn't account for the gap in learning capacity. Someone was going to be negatively affected. But you and I both know that between having to wait 10 minutes to move on to the next page and getting held back a year, one negative outcome is to be favored over the other. That brings me to the start of this episode, Connie Springer. Connie's a simple guy. He's a normal dude from a random village that went and became a soldier. As the narrative progresses, it's not Connie that gets more complicated, but everything around him. His village is destroyed, his mom is turned into an immobile titan, friends betray him, and the world around him gets involved in debates about morality, genocide, freedom, human dignity, war, and peace. Throughout all of this, Connie just cares about his friends and his mom. Things happen and people react with complex emotions. When Sasha dies, Aaron laughs and then he grimaces. When they succeed in getting Aaron to Zeke, Aaron initiates a genocide rather than initiating a path to peace. Through it all, again, Connie just cares about his friends and his mom. It's no surprise then that when an enemy combatant turns out to be a Titan shifter, which, when eaten by a pure Titan, can turn them back to normal, Connie leaps at the chance to feed the guy to his mom. All he wants is for his mom to go back to normal. And the guy's an enemy anyway, right? Except there's one minor issue. The guy's a minor. The enemy combatant in question is Falco Grice, who can't be any older than 14. Connie would be sacrificing a child to save his mother. And he knows it's wrong, it's not that he doesn't know it's wrong. But when a simple-minded guy like Connie knows that he's surrounded by a world with far more complicated stuff that he can even hope to understand, he narrows his sphere of focus to his sphere of influence, which is his immediate circle, his friends, and his mom. Simply put, Connie doesn't have the mental capacity to care all that much about Falco. He has enough brain power to understand that killing a kid is wrong, sure, but that's not what I mean. Falco isn't just Falco to Connie. Falco is representative of a larger scale moral conundrum. How do we treat prisoners of war? Does that treatment apply when they're children? Are we allowed to do to Falco what we did to Bertolt? Is what we did to Bertolt wrong too? Is there any diplomatic fallout from killing Falco to consider? What would Sasha think? What would Mom think? What would Aaron think? What would John think? Does Falco have a family that would care if he died? Does it matter? Isn't it a bit disingenuous to boil it all down to, he's a kid, don't kill him? Let me tell you another story. I live on a little island called Puerto Rico, home to such classics as The Wizard of Waverly Place movie and Jake Paul running over sea turtles. Allegedly. I recently had to renew my driver's license for the first time and it was a nightmare. I had to scramble to find and obtain so many documents and stamps I could hardly keep track of it all. It was so frustratingly complicated. You need your original birth certificate, some invoice confirming you live where you say you live. If you rent, you need that confirmation invoice about your landlord and he needs to sign a form confirming you live there. You need a doctor's certification, like 4 different stamps, a W-2 form, yes, the one you file your taxes with, and your social security card. Oh, and about 3 other forms that I've already forgotten about. And all that's for your driver's license. Food stamps? Same thing. Forgot your online bank account username? Prepare for trouble and make it double. And don't even get me started on the push for more stringent and robust security on nearly every conceivable platform, from your phone to your freaking Microsoft account. Don't misunderstand, I'm able to adapt. I can keep up, but not everyone can. Old people are bowing out. Idiots are bowing out. In an ever-increasingly complex society, people who can't keep up with the intellectual demands are giving up. How many mandatory password changes do they expect people to go through before they just start adding another 0 at the end of their previous password? How many increasingly complex captchas do they have to implement before people just stop making accounts for everything? More to the point, how many roadblocks will you place before the intellectually impaired before you displace them entirely? Understand, times have always been changing. There's always some new invention or development around the corner that's displaced one group or another. But where before, the adaptation required pertained to their disposition, that is, their willingness to change, now the adaptation that society requires is to reach for intellectual heights we haven't ever had to ask the average person to climb. Connie Springer is not as smart as Armin Arlert. Connie Springer is not capable of wrestling with questions that even Erwin Smith would be hard-pressed to answer. Armin understood this, so he explained himself in a way that Connie would understand by letting his actions do the talking. If Connie can't bear to let Armin die for his mother's sake, then he must apply the same to Falco. The message got through, but it was done by charitable condescension, rather than by trying to get complex morality through Connie's thick skull. Armin recognized that he, as Connie's friend, was within both his sphere of focus and his sphere of influence. He brought the stakes back to something that Connie could tangibly conceive of. In other words, Armin met Connie where he was at. Likewise, not everyone is as smart as you. Not everyone grew up on iPhones and Nintendo Wiis. Not everyone made their first email account at age 7. Not everyone was raised in the information age. Not everyone was as privileged to own a phone as a child, and not everyone can understand complexities as well as you. So be nicer to idiots and meet them where they're at. Life is already complicated enough for them as is. This has been the 5th episode of Piercing, my commentary on media from a Catholic point of view. Like the video, subscribe, ring the bell, you know the drill. If you want to hang out with Catholics like me, even if you're not quite Catholic yourself, check out the Catholic Diocese of Discord and tell them I sent you. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a blessed rest of your day.